There comes a moment in every person's life when time no longer feels endless, when the years ahead are no longer measured by ambition, but by peace. For most people, that moment comes about 5 years before retirement. 5 years that can make or break the next 20. It's a quiet window, often unnoticed, yet it holds more power than all the decades before it. I've sat across hundreds of tables, looked into the eyes of men and women who have worked hard their entire lives, and seen the same expression, a strange mix of pride, fatigue, and fear. They say, "Stanley, I don't know if I'm ready." And I tell them the truth, none of us ever really are. But readiness isn't about having everything perfect. It's about having the courage to plan when it's uncomfortable. It's about making decisions today that your future self will thank you for. And that, my friend, is what these final 5 years are truly about. You see, most people believe retirement is a finish line, a moment when you simply stop working and start living. But that's not how it happens. Retirement is not a single day, it's a transition. And like any great transition, it requires clarity, honesty, and discipline. The hardest part, it's not math, it's not the markets, it's the heart. Because the truth is, retirement planning forces you to face questions most people avoid. How much longer can I keep this pace? Do I have enough? What if I don't? What happens if I live longer than I expect? What if the world changes again like it always does? Behind every spreadsheet is a story, a lifetime of effort, 1,000 small sacrifices no one ever saw. Every early morning, every missed vacation, every dollar saved instead of spent, all of it adds up to this single, fragile hope. That you'll have enough to live and enough to rest. But fear is loud in these years. It whispers things like, "You're too late. You should have started sooner. You'll never catch up." And many people listen. They freeze. They do nothing. And in doing nothing, they lose the most precious thing of all, time. The truth is, it's not too late, not if you act with purpose, not if you use these final years wisely. The 5 years before retirement are not the end of your working life, they're the peak. Your income is often the highest it's ever been. Your kids are likely out of the house. Your expenses are lower. And compound interest, that quiet miracle, still has time to work for you, but only if you choose to let it. Every decision in this window matters. Do you raise your lifestyle now or invest for the life you'll want later? Do you carry debt into your 60s or fight to be free before you step into retirement? Do you bet your future on a single stock or stay humble and diversified when the world screams otherwise? These are not financial choices, they're spiritual ones, because they test your patience, your faith, your ability to believe that the long road is still worth walking. I've seen people panic and cash out at the wrong time. I've seen them claim Social Security too early, locking themselves into smaller checks for the rest of their lives. I've seen them freeze in fear when they should have been deliberate. And I've also seen the ones who didn't panic, who planned, who adjusted, who looked the storm in the eye and stayed the course. Those are the people who made it, not because they were lucky, but because they were patient. One of the most powerful things you can do right now is to understand where your money is actually going. So many people guess. They say, "I think I spend 8,000 a month." Maybe 10, but when they look closely, they find leaks, small, invisible habits draining their future. Money has a way of disappearing quietly unless you tell it where to go. Awareness is power, because once you know, you can redirect. You can build, you can choose. Track your spending for a few months, not to punish yourself, but to see what freedom really costs. You might find that what you truly value costs less than you thought, and that every dollar saved now buys you peace later. Next, eliminate debt like your life depends on it, because it does. Debt is a thief that steals both your money and your peace of mind. If you carry it into retirement, it will own you. The best time to attack it is now, while your income is high and your responsibilities are lighter. Pay off the credit cards, the car loans, the home equity lines. The interest you save is income you'll keep for yourself later. And if your mortgage has a low rate, that's different. But don't confuse manageable with harmless. Freedom feels better than any tax deduction ever could. Then there's the question of saving. How much more can you put away in these final years? At 50, the rules change. You can make catch-up contributions. You can fill your 401k, your Roth, your HSA. But here's the truth. Not all savings are equal. Every dollar you put into a traditional account saves taxes today, but it builds a tax bill for the future. The government will get its share either now or later. So be wise. Diversify your tax future too. Consider the Roth 401k if you can. And if your company offers a mega backdoor Roth, understand it, it's one of the most powerful tools ever created. Some people can move hundreds of thousands into Roth status without conversions or penalties. And that's not just a tax move, it's a freedom move. Because money that grows tax-free is money that belongs to you fully, quietly, forever. Still, don't chase every trick or trend. You don't need complexity. You need clarity. Because complexity makes people freeze, and freezing costs more than mistakes ever do. Next comes the hardest part of all, risk. The older we get, the less risk we think we can handle. But risk doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It simply changes shape. If you get too conservative too early, you risk outliving your money. If you panic and move everything to cash, inflation will slowly eat away the value of your work. The goal isn't to avoid risk, it's to manage it. I once worked with a couple, Phil and Claire. They were 60, planning to retire at 65. They were nervous. They'd saved $1 million. It sounded like a lot until they ran the numbers. If they claimed Social Security early and went conservative with their portfolio, their plan had only a 12% chance of success. 12%, so we talked, we rebalanced. They shifted from 35% stocks to 60%. They delayed Social Security until age 70. Same people, same money, different choices. And their probability of success jumped to 79%. That's the power of timing, patience, and perspective. This isn't about gambling. It's about not letting fear make your decisions for you, because fear is expensive. It taxes the soul more than the government ever could. And speaking of taxes, they will be one of your biggest costs in retirement. Most people don't realize it until it's too late. Required minimum distributions, IRMAA surcharges, Social Security taxation, they all add up. Without a tax plan, you'll pay more than you need to. And as I tell my clients, you should pay your fair share, but don't tip the government. Plan your taxes like you plan your investments. Sometimes a small Roth conversion each year can save hundreds of thousands over a lifetime. Sometimes it means retiring a year later to get into a lower bracket and protect your capital. It's not about avoiding taxes, it's about avoiding regret. I know this might sound heavy, but here's what I've learned after decades in this field. Retirement isn't really about money. It's about peace, and peace comes from clarity. Clarity comes from planning, and planning comes from courage. You have two choices right now. You can coast into retirement, hoping things work out, crossing your fingers that the market behaves and that you'll live just long enough to make it. Or you can take ownership today. You can build a plan that tells your money where to go, that gives you purpose for every dollar and every day. A plan that replaces fear with direction. That's the difference between drifting and driving. Every time someone tells me they're just hoping it'll all work out, I remind them that hope is not a plan. Hope is fuel, but it needs a map to go anywhere. I've seen too many people wait until the final year to get serious. By then, their decisions are reactive. They claim benefits too early, sell investments in a panic, and lose years of potential growth. And then, when they sit across from me, their eyes say what their words can't. I wish I'd started sooner, but I've also seen the others, the ones who decide to face the numbers, face their fear, and start building anyway. They track their spending, they pay off their debt, they rebalance their portfolio. They talk to their spouse about real goals, not just numbers. They get a tax map in place. They make small, steady moves. And you know what happens? They sleep better, they smile more, they start to dream again. The magic isn't in the money. It's in the mindset. Because the truth is, retirement isn't the end of usefulness, it's the beginning of freedom. And freedom requires discipline long before it feels good. So if you're 5 years out, don't wait for the perfect plan. Start with an honest one. Look at your expenses. Eliminate what drains you. Protect what matters. Invest with patience. And remember, you're not running out of time. You're entering the most powerful season of your life. This is the window when small decisions compound into lasting peace, when discipline becomes dignity, when planning becomes love for yourself, for your spouse, for the people who depend on you. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know where to start, start here. Track your money, pay your debt, save with intention, build a plan. Even a rough plan today is worth more than a perfect plan tomorrow. Because the future doesn't reward the perfect, it rewards the prepared. 5 years, that's all. 5 years to build the foundation for the next 20. 5 years to choose freedom over fear. 5 years to take control of the only thing you can truly own, your choices. And when the day comes, when you finally wake up and realize you don't have to go to work anymore, you'll feel something most people never get to feel. Not relief, not luck, but peace. Because you'll know that you didn't drift here. You walked here on purpose. You built this peace one choice at a time. You earned it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll sit in the quiet of that morning light with a cup of coffee in your hand and whisper to yourself, I made it. And I made it right.